This is Bailey Fogle. This is my poster for my action research study. My research question is, how does high school teachers' attitude about utilizing technology for the purpose of formative assessment affect their classroom assessment practices? I studied 6 teachers at East Jessamine High School who taught various subject areas, and I wanted to find out how teachers' attitudes towards technology-based formative assessment affect their assessment practices. This is relevant to my school because all secondary teachers are expected to formatively assess their students. While many teachers at East do use formative assessment frequently in their classrooms, many do not utilize technology as often as they formatively assess. With a 1-to-1 ratio of Chromebooks to students in the school, I wanted to find out why teachers did not use technology more frequently. Through my literature review, I surveyed relevant published studies and made connections to the topic of technology-based formative assessments. These articles provided me background information to studies that were conducted on technology-based formative assessments. This literature also allowed me to make connections between that and my action research study findings. These are the themes along with the information from my sources. The 3 themes that reoccurred through my literature review was that student benefits, teacher benefits, and teacher attitudes. For my action research, I used a triangulation mixed method approach. This allowed me to collect qualitative and quantitative data. My qualitative data was collected by performing observations and interviews, and my quantitative data was collected by giving a survey. The mixed method approach allowed teachers to share their knowledge of technology-based formative assessments in various ways. The participants were 6 secondary teachers who were selected randomly and taught various subject areas and had varying levels of teaching experience, shown in the table below. Each participant signed a consent form and agreed to the procedures presented that would take place during the research study. The data to complete the study was kept on a password-protected computer. All participants were assigned a number identifier to use instead of their names to protect their privacy. As soon as the study is officially complete, I will shred and delete any data that is related to this study by December 30th of 2019. For this study, again, I used 3 sources, which was the survey, observation, and interview. The 3 data sources allowed me to triangulate my data. The first step was to go through each individual source and code the pieces. These codes were related to my research question of, how do teachers' attitudes towards technology-based formative assessment affect their assessment practices? Once the themes and codes were recognized in the individual pieces, I then put the individual themes into a table. I then reviewed each participant and their reoccurring themes, and then put the themes together that reoccurred through all 3 data sources. The themes that reoccurred through all 3 data sources allowed me to triangulate my data and create findings that proved that my findings were indeed valid. This table shows the themes that were found throughout each individual instrument, the survey, observation, and interview. This table then was the refined themes that occurred through all 3 data sources. And then finally, this table shows the common meta-themes that again showed up through all 3 data sources. The themes were then turned into assertions. The 3 assertions from the 3 themes found were: technology allows teachers to collect data in a timely manner. Teachers can then use that data to drive their instruction. Technology allows students to receive immediate feedback. This in turn helps students to be active in their learning process, knowing immediately what they need to work on or need help with. And teachers understand the effectiveness of using technology to formatively assess their students. However, they do not utilize it as frequently as they would like to for varying reasons. The purpose of this action research study was to determine teachers' thoughts on how technology-based formative assessments impact their teaching and their student achievement. Through collecting and analyzing data from my 3 sources, I was able to gain insight on how teachers at East Jessamine High School feel about digital formative assessments, including their pros and cons. Participants overall shared the efficiency and effectiveness of digital formatives. They shared how effective they are and how they help for them to receive and their students to receive immediate feedback, help them to collect data, and then also help them to drive their instruction. However, with all these positive things that the participants said about digital formative assessments, there was still found to be a need of support for teachers with these tools. My findings were linked to my literature, and the following 3 goals were found. The first goal was to improve teachers' ability to collect data using digital formative assessment. The second goal was to improve students' experience with formative assessment, improving teachers' ability to provide students with immediate feedback, again related to technology-based formative assessment. The third goal was to provide support on how to effectively implement technology into formative assessment practices. The teachers that participated contributed their ideas that would improve their use of technology for formative assessments. The following ideas listed would increase the use of digital formative assessments, which would in turn help both teachers and students. After researching this topic, I really want to advocate for teachers and their need to appropriately use technology to formatively assess their students, but also make sure that they receive the support that they need as well. The first recommendation is that teachers receive appropriate technology in their classroom. In order to be able to utilize technology, they must have the technology. The minimal technology that they would need is a classroom set of Chromebooks and internet. The majority of technology-based formative platforms can be accessed online, and having Chromebooks for each student and the appropriate internet access would allow teachers to utilize these applications to support student achievement. The second recommendation is for digital formative assessment professional development. Participants in my study felt that their districts and schools should hone in on a few digital formative assessment tools and provide support to teachers on how to effectively incorporate them in their classrooms. Teachers feel overwhelmed with the large number of options for digital tools and feel that they do not have time on their own to learn how to use them and figure out which ones would work best for their subject area. The final recommendation that I have is for teachers to have time in professional development to create digital formative banks. Participants felt like they had test banks and question banks for summative assessments, but would love to spend time in their specific subject area to create digital formatives with different platforms for specific subject areas. They feel like that this would allow them to learn how to use the platform correctly and also have time in professional development to create those things so they will be able to use them more effectively in their classroom. These are my references, and you can visit those to find out more information on technology-based formative assessments.